Good morning. I always want to say good morning Vietnam from that movie. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. It's time for a little coffee chatting. I told the people that I work with I'm going to sing everything from now on to keep everybody in a good mood. Seen those musicals where they just sing everything? Hey, Buffy, good morning. I'm actually going to start this podcast now because we're going to kind of jump right into stuff here. All right, good morning, podcast people. Oh, my goodness. Hello, Miss Tracy is with us. She's going to provide some links to, I have some reading recommendations for you guys that I will provide once we are done with our conversation. Good morning, Anita. Yeah, right? Buffy says singing everything would be awesome. Everyone's always, in a bad mood at work because we have so much going on and so much to do. Not in a bad mood, but hi, Amy. What do you think, Amy? I'm thinking we should sing everything from now on. You keep everybody in a good mood, or at least keep them laughing. Can you imagine if someone asked you a question and you just sang the answer at work? Like one of those, those old-fashioned musicals where everyone was just so stupidly happy for no reason. They just went around singing and dancing everywhere they went. All right. So last week we were talking about, so for those of you that are new to Coffee Chat, Morning Coffee Chat, or those of you just tuning in, or for those of you that don't tune in all the time, this is sort of progressive, right? So it builds off the one in front of it. So lots of times you'll hear me reference something from last week. You can find all of the coffee chats on our Facebook page in the Facebook video section. You can also go to our podcast platform, which if you visit theworkingsinglemom.com and click the button for listen to the podcast, you'll come to the podcast platform. You can get us on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher and a bunch of other ones as well. So a couple things before we jump in. I'll hit this now and I'm going to hit it again at the end. We are now doing a spotlight feature. I see Amy Colby on here, and she was our first inaugural spotlight person. So what we are doing is we are spotlighting a woman. She actually does not have to be a mom. She does not have to be a single mom. Oh, and we already have a creeper. Okay. So she does not have to be a mom. She does not have to be a single mom. We are looking for women that are making a difference in their lives. That could mean that they volunteer at the school library every week. That could mean that they're a first responder. It could mean that they're a nurse. It could mean that they're a teacher, an educator, a librarian, a mom working 6 jobs to feed her family. It could look any way. The trick is I want you to nominate someone from your life. So I don't want people nominating themselves. The idea here is for us to give celebration to others and for us to share. Oh, and we have someone looking for a girlfriend. How nice. Not here, buddy. Sorry. So we want you to celebrate each other. That's the words I'm looking for. Can you tell I need more coffee? So right now we are working to put something on the site where you can click and you'll be able to nominate. You'll be able to write an email to us and it will just come right over where it needs to go. In the meantime, you can nominate by emailing me. You can find my email address in the About section of the Facebook page. You can also find it on the site, theworkingsinglemom.com. So we're looking for you to nominate. Let's see, it looks like Tiffany has a nomination. Tiffany, you need to, if you do in fact have a nomination, you need to send that to us in an email. So what we're looking for is why you're nominating, who the person is to you, whether it's a neighbor, a friend, a family member, etc. And then we are looking for their contact information as well. And we are going to highlight 2 people a month. They're going to get a post on Facebook with their picture and a write-up on the blog, and they're going to get featured in our newsletter, and they're going to get a cool certificate that says we celebrate you for your magnificence, and they're also going to get a little swag bag from Kim, Tracy, and I. We're having some cool new merch made to give away, and they're also going to get a little surprise, which I am not making public. So you'll just have to wait and see and hope that somebody nominates you or nominate somebody else. Okay, so celebrate each other and nominate people in your lives to be celebrated. Okay, does not have to be a mom, does not have to be a single mom, just needs to be a woman, because that's our main demographic. Okay, so last week we talked about is who selling something? I don't know who this person is. No, we're not selling something. Okay, so we are gonna we're gonna jump right in. And last week we were talking about being conscious of where you, yes, June, it's worldwide. In answer to your question, you can nominate. We have a global audience, so we are taking global nominations. Okay, so last week we were talking about being conscious of where you are coming from, meaning when you wake up in the morning, what is your state of mind? Where are you coming from on a daily basis? What is your B? What do you wake up into? Do you wake up into worry, stress, and strain? Or are you waking up into knowing that good things are happening? Are you waking up into a consciousness of being positive and looking forward to the day? Or are you waking up in a state of, being worried, concerned, anxiety, etc.? Okay? So I asked you to take a look at that. I encourage you to go back and watch last week's live if you want to hear more about that. This morning I wanted to talk to you more along those lines and delve a little bit deeper into it. And I wanted to talk about your baseline and improving your baseline. So let's call your baseline that state of how you wake up into the day, right? Whether or not you wake up into the day feeling happy, excited, joyful, or if you wake up into the day worried about what you need to do, what's not getting done, your to-do list, what you have to do with your kids, all of that. And so I want you to think of that as your baseline, okay? I'm sorry, another person looking for a girlfriend. Oh, you guys, this is not the place to look for your girlfriend, all right? So just go away. If you are a creeper and you're looking for a girlfriend, we are not your people. Go away. Okay, so what is your baseline? What do you wake up into? What do you wake up into? So, do you wake up in fear? Do you wake up in anxiety? Do you wake up looking forward to the day? What are you waking up in the middle of? That is, believe it or not, that is your baseline, and that is where you're coming from, and that sets the tone for the day, all right? So let's talk about how to move our goal here over the next couple of weeks is I want to move your baseline, right? So last week we talked about the scale of emotions and what's a high emotion and what's a low emotion. And our goal here is going to be to move that baseline from wherever it is to at least a couple of states higher, right? So we're not asking you to go from complete fear and being petrified to joy, because I realize that's a huge ask and that's going to take some time for you to practice and to get up there, all right? So let's move the baseline at least like 5 or 6 notches up the scale. And last week, Tracy gave us a link. I think Laws of Attraction has a link to the scale of emotions, and maybe Tracy can provide that for us again. She's watching and listening. So our goal is going to be to move your baseline, all right? And in order to move your baseline, you've got to release. You've got to forgive, release, because lots of things that keep you at that fear, at that low baseline, we'll call it, because it might not be fear for you. It might be worry. It might be anxiety. It could be anger. It could be unforgiveness. It could be a hard heart. It could be your baseline. Everybody's baseline is going to be different. So Amanda's saying she wakes up with her mind racing about what she needs to get done that day. So in order to get to a new baseline, it's going to require us to do a little bit of inner work, which usually is going to involve forgiveness and release, right? So, you know, we talk about forgiveness a lot. We've talked about it a lot here. We forgive for ourselves, not necessarily for the other people, because most of the people that have harmed us or hurt us intentionally or unintentionally, it probably isn't even on, you know, they probably don't walk around with it like we do, right? They probably did whatever they did and they've moved on. So, forgiveness, release, and aiming to move up the baseline that we're coming from. So when you're usually we're not located in a particular state, Michelle. We're everywhere. We're global and we're national. I have the company that owns the Working Single Mom, which is my company, has offices in both Tennessee and Vermont. But we are not, you can't find us any particular place. We are an online public page, and we are a brand, and we are a national and actually a global brand. So someone keeps asking what state we're located in, but it's not like you can come and find us in a particular place. Okay, so moving up the baseline. When you're in a particular state that you can't seem to get yourself out of, be it fear or sadness, grief, worry, anxiety, something else, lots of times we'll make if we're conscious enough to know that we're in that state, we will then make ourselves wrong for being there. We'll make ourselves wrong for being in that space. And then we end up like in a whole, hamster wheel over that, right? Like we're fearful, and then we know we're fearful, and then we know we shouldn't be fearful, and then we're trying to get it. So it turns into this like self-perpetuating mess. So here's the thing. When in fear or anxiety, or when at a low point on the baseline, see it, recognize it. The cat has a lot to say this morning. Can you guys hear him? When in fear, see it, thank it for sharing, and then elect to choose a new thought, right? You can do that. You can just decide to choose a new thought. You can thank the thoughts that you're having that aren't useful. You can just simply thank them for sharing and push them aside and move on to a new thought. You don't have to invite that thought in. You don't have to bring it in, offer it a cup of tea, give it some scones, sit down at a table with it. Lori's cat is looking for my cat. Sorry, Lori, I don't know what he's doing out there, but my husband just went to see what is he doing, because maybe he sees something outside. Anyway, so you have a thought. Let's say you have a thought that's low on the scale. You wake up right now currently in a baseline of a low emotion or a lower emotion on the emotional scale, which Tracy I see posted in the comments. I saw it come through. All right, so that baseline has a thought set that goes with it, right? So you wake up and your mind starts running and you have these particular thoughts, and those thoughts are matching your current baseline. So the first thing to do is recognize where you are. I want you to recognize the thoughts that you're having. That's the first step. So see where you're at. Just see where you're at. Okay? And then if where you're at is not where you want to be or where you strive to be, then you can thank those thoughts for sharing, and you can be appreciative that you've had them, and that you can recognize that that's not where you want to be, and then you can move up to a new thought. You can choose a new thought, okay? Last week I talked about Gabrielle Bernstein's book. She's got she has some good exercises in there and some good processes. I'm going to give you 3 book recommendations at the end of the coffee chat, and Tracy's going to post those links on here where you can find the books on Amazon that I'm talking about. Which all 3 of those books, by the way, will help you in this whole, like, recognizing the thought patterns that you're stuck in and moving yourself out of that to move up, move your baseline up. That's my goal, is to get you to move your baseline up. All right. Now, one of the tricks to moving your baseline up, which the Course in Miracles mentions and Gabby Bernstein mentions, and I'm going to mention it now. So remember a moment. We all have at least a moment in time where we were happy, we felt well and safe and protected. And you have those moments. Some of us have more than a moment, but some of us will only be able to, at this point in our lives, access a moment where we would call like everything perfect. You have a moment where everything was like, it was all working, it was all perfect, it was all connected. Access that moment and then notice how you feel, right? Notice how you're, like, what's your body language in that moment? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? And then work to extend that moment. The whole thing here is your baseline vibe is your attractor, right? So like I said last week, you can sit around for a half an hour a day and you can do affirmations, but if your baseline is absolute anxiety, fear, terror of not having enough money, terror, fear that it doesn't all work out, waiting for the other shoe to drop, whatever it is, if you're doing your work to make your manifestation list and you're doing affirmations and you're doing all the do's, and your B, meaning your baseline vibe, is still coming from a place of fear, anxiety, distrust, unforgiveness, anger, remorse, grief, then all of that good work you're doing is like negating, right? So you end up staying here because you've got your low baseline vibe, and then you've got all the good work that you're doing to get yourself to a better place, and they're canceling each other out, right? So, your baseline vibe is an important thing for you to recognize. Where you're coming from is instrumental in how you grow and your ability to grow, and how fast you can attract and manifest what you want. Okay? So, we should all be able to recognize what we're waking up into the middle of this morning and every morning. We should all be able to recognize where we're coming from and what our vibe is. So if you can remember a moment that you felt well, happy, protected, and safe, and how that felt and what the thoughts were that you were thinking in that moment, then you can really kind of work on trying to extend the feeling that you had in that moment. Feeling and your energetic vibe is far more important than most people talk about. There's a lot of people out there talking about the do's of everything, like make this list, journal this, do that, and I talk about that stuff too. And it's time that we started talking more about your baseline, where you're coming from, because even if you're doing all that outer work, if the baseline of where you are vibing from, and I say vibing from for lack of a better word, but I think you guys can get that. Like, it's your energy. It's the energy that is prevailing with you on the daily. What is that? What is that energy? when you are working to raise your baseline, you're going to have moments where you're going to have a fear-based thought. You're going to have something that tries to hook you, right? And so I'm sorry, we've got like people here that are okay. So your energy is what's going to attracts that to you. So if you're vibing from, if you've got a low place that you're vibing from, you're going to attract that to you, no matter how much work you do in the do part, right? So there's be, do, have. The be is the most important. That's like your vibe. That's your baseline, okay? Your do is all the actions that you take to raise your manifestations, to raise your baseline, to raise your consciousness, to raise what your goals, all of that. Those are all your actions. Those are the do's. It's really easy to get caught up in the do, right? It's really easy to get caught up in do. It is much more difficult to really look at your be and to raise that. So Amy's saying she just read something that said you confront all you want, but the universe responds to who you really are. I love that. That's perfect, Amy. Thank you. That statement is absolutely correct. The universe will respond to the vibe that you are and the vibe that you're putting out, whatever that is, okay? So it's just like people who are inauthentic, right? They say something with their mouth, but their actions tell you something else about them. So that's the same with us. We can say all the right words with our mouths, and that is useful. Don't discount the usefulness of like fake it till you make it, okay? What I want you to get though is that until you can raise the energy, until you can raise that baseline vibe, you are you're not going to be able to manifest things at your full potential. You're not going to be able to create the life that you truly want for yourself if you can't get your energy off the floor, out of the basement, for lack of a better word. And again, you don't have to go. So if you look at that emotional scale that Tracy posted in the comments, right? Your lowest, one of the lowest things is fear and grief, and the highest one is joy, and then there's a ton of shit in between there. One of the things in between there is worry, which is like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 levels higher than fear. All out fear keeps you from being able to even act or being able to attract solutions or anything. Worry is more of like an annoyance and something that we want to move out of. However, it's not as debilitating as fear itself, okay? So really this week, take a look at moving that baseline. Take a look at, first of all, what is your baseline? Where are you vibing from? Janet's noting that there's lots of creepers today. Yes, there is. That's okay. We can deal with that. Tracy's here mitigating creepers as I am blocking them as I see them. Okay, so really take a look at that baseline energy that you come into your day with. What are you coming into your day with? And yes, Dee is reminding us that it's the simple law of attraction. You attract what you put out. So what you put out is not just your actions, but it is your energy. So wherever the place is that you're coming from, you know how when someone walks into a room and they have shitty energy, you can feel it right away, and it's a turnoff, right? Whereas if someone walks into that room and they're very, if they have really high energy, or they're very joyful, or they're very enthusiastic, you can feel that as well. You can also feel a person that is saying enthusiastic things out of their mouth, but they're they're trying too hard, right? They're like talking, I say talking from like the neck up. They're just like, they've got rhetoric and they're saying things and they're saying all the right things, but you're around their persona and you are not feeling that from them. So that's an example of someone's baseline, not matching up with the rest of how they are. And again, I'm not discounting the action-oriented state. I'm not discounting the do state, because you do have to take action. However, if we don't go back to be, and you can't clear the field there of the be and at least see where you are and attempt to elevate yourself and continue to elevate yourself, then all of the good work that you do in the do-oriented state will not take hold, okay? Because what comes next is have, right? So it's be, do, have. So you have a particular vibe, you work to raising that so that you can attract the things that you desire and require. You then do the actions that line up with where you want to go, and then you begin to have all of the things that you're working toward. You begin to manifest those things coming to you as a result. All right? So be aware of how you're feeling, how you are feeling. Although I say that feelings don't matter, meaning that if you tell someone you're going to do something and then you don't feel like doing it because you're angry or aggravated or whatever, then I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought because someone's popped in asking what this is all about. Dawn, this is a live Facebook coffee chat show that we do every Sunday morning, and you're welcome to go to the Working Single Mom Facebook page and check it out. Okay, so be aware of how you feel. Feelings, they matter in that they are creating your baseline. When I say feelings don't matter, when you've heard me say that in the past, what I mean is that if I tell you that I'm going to, let's say, pick up your kid from an after-school activity, and then I don't really feel like it because you pissed me off this morning when we were talking on the phone, whatever, like that feeling in that moment, that doesn't matter because I told you that I would pick up your kid. You're trusting me to pick up your kid, so I am going to go do that because that's what I said I would do. So in that example, your feelings don't matter, right? Because our mind, our ego will tell us all kinds of things to try to throw us off track and try to get us not to keep our word. Where feelings do matter is when you are, they do matter because they create your baseline. Not that we're using them to create our baseline, but they actually are creating our baseline. They actually are creating our baseline. So I want you to, or I'm inviting you, I'm not here to tell you guys what to do. I'm here just to share information and give you some tools. So what I would love is if you became aware of how you feel. I would love if you woke up in the morning and you thought about how you are feeling and how you are, what kind of energy you're getting ready to take into the day. I think it would be valuable for you to see where you are coming from, what is your be, and then we'll keep working on how to elevate that pervading energy of you, get it up there, and keep raising it higher. One of the most useful things that anyone ever taught me is, well, it's twofold. One, never judge anything by the way that it looks. Judge by your intention in the matter. And meaning that when things don't look the way that you want them to look, you have a particular intention about how you want it to turn out, and you keep your state of mind and your energy focused on where you want to go. So you don't dissolve into despair because of how it looks in any given moment. Because when you're on your way to creating a life that works for you, you're going to have there'll be a lot of levels, and there'll be a lot of things that you'll move through. And at any given moment, you can look around and think it's not working. So it's really important that you don't judge anything by the way that it looks, that you judge by where you intend for it to go, meaning that you're here and you have an intention for your life that's here. And to get you from here to here is actually going to be a thing that looks like this. It's not a straight shot. You're going to cycle around. You're going to encounter yourself and all the things about yourself that don't work. You'll encounter them once. You'll level up. And then you'll get comfortable there, and it'll be time for you to level up again. And then you'll encounter something else about yourself that doesn't work. And then you'll go up. And okay? And we just keep going. I've been practicing and studying for 40 years now. I'm 52. It'll be 41 years this coming year. All right? So... and I still am leveling up. I'm still learning. I'm still practicing. It never stops. It gets easier to recognize the things about yourself that don't work. It gets easier to mitigate them. It gets easier to conquer them. They never go away. Because if there was nothing else to learn, we'd just be dead. And that would be the end of that. So there's always something new to learn. So this week, be aware of how you feel. Up your vibe, be conscious of how you feel, what you're waking up into, and thank your thoughts for sharing. That was one of those second most important things that I learned, to my point a minute ago, is that you have the ability to choose your thoughts in any moment. So if you're having a bunch of fear-based, anxiety-driven thoughts and you want to have better thoughts, you can simply thank those thoughts for sharing. And don't resist them, because they'll persist if you resist them. So acknowledge them, not like you're giving energy to them, but acknowledge them and then just move on and choose a different thought. You have the ability to choose your own thoughts. Nobody does that for you but you. Okay, so I think I'll do a separate video about the spotlight feature and put it up later on today, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to highlight the new thing that we're doing, spotlighting women. So for now, I'll just say go to theworkingsinglemom.com and check us out. Make sure Lori's reminding me about the books. Thank you, Lori. Open Your Mind to Prosperity by Catherine Ponder is 1. 2 is Super Attractor by Gabrielle Bernstein. And 3 is Florence Scovel Shinn. This is an old writer, I think from the 1900s. She has a book called The Magic Path of Intuition, published by Hay House. Tracy is going to put up those 3 links. You can get all those 3 books on Amazon. I recommend them all. If you are very new to the practice of changing, your thinking, I would suggest The Magic Path of Intuition first, and then Open Your Mind to Prosperity next, and Gabriella Bernstein's book Super Attractor as the 3rd one. If you are already studying this type of thinking and you're already familiar with it, any of those 3 books will be great. Magic Path of Intuition is fantastic. It is really easy to understand, and it was written in the 1900s. It's not a book that a lot of people know about. She's not a writer that a lot of people know about. Catherine Ponder actually studied her. A lot of the people that are out there now have studied her books. She wrote one called The Game of Life as well, and she has a few others. However, a nice intro into this way of thinking, seeing that you have responsibility for your own life, is the Magic Path of Intuition. It's just little, and it's got bright pages, and it's fun to read, and it's a great start along with whoever else besides me that you're watching and listening to. Okay, so go to theworkingsinglemom.com, visit us there, join us to listen to the podcast. Again, if you missed the video, you can do that by going to theworkingsinglemom.com and clicking the podcast link. We're going to say goodbye to our podcast folks now. And Facebook fam, We will see you next Sunday. You can go to theworkingsinglemom.com. You can also go to the Facebook page and watch the replay if you just came in at the end. I also encourage you to go back and watch the last few weeks. We've been working kind of a trajectory since the beginning of November. Okay? So I encourage you to go back and watch those. I think you'll find them useful. Okay, take care. Have a good week.